quit my job for a minute, I need a break. What would it take to take a breath? I'll pay it all, I promise. Half-assed for the last mile, it's been a while since I was all in. Slow and steady I race, the pace is keeping me honest with myself. The monologues, the time will tell, hit different when I'm fishing for a distant destination. And fold the cards I'm dealt, efficiency and friction split the difference. When you visit, take a picture, wish me well. I'll leave a light on, write a note to myself. I'll set an alarm and ask for help when I think I need it. I got a plan, I got a plan, I got a plan, will it pan out? I got a plan, I got a plan, I got a plan, I promise. I got a plan, I got a plan, I got a plan, will it pan out? I got a plan, I got a plan, I got a plan, I promise.
Well, let's start with the small questions.
For sure, yeah.
Before we get into discussing the project. Hey, it's Ivka here in post. I just wanted to say welcome to Lab Grown, a musician interview podcast. Whoa, I've got Natureplayer here with me. And since it's in post, that song you just heard was I Promise by Natureplayer off the solo project that we discuss in depth. Enjoy. Is your cat's name Bingo?
Yes, Bingo is on the floor napping right now.
All right. That is just something I was reading through the lyrics and it said Bingo ate my charger.
Yeah, Bingo's the cat. Yeah.
That must be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Nice.
become part of like the Natureplayer lore at this point. Like the last music video I did, he was a starring role in it because I had just gotten him and it was back at my parents' house in Wisconsin. And yeah, he was just, I don't know, there's a line about him in that too. That was every year. And so, yeah, I like tweeting pictures of him causing chaos. Like my last single, he was, the cover art was him destroying a roll of toilet paper. So he's, I don't know, he's part of the universe of Natureplayer content at this point. And so it felt like it makes sense to like actually like name him in a song, even though it's kind of like, I guess, unconventional, especially within, I don't know, it's fine. You can do whatever you want. You can write lyrics about whatever you're feeling.
I mean, on the topic of the way that you write lyrics it reminds me a lot of like pop punk lyricism.
A little bit, yeah.
While still playing into like so many other genres. But like the notion of like mentioning your cat as if like your cat is just like your friend's name in a song, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I put my cat's name in a song. Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that in like Midwest emo and stuff too. And then also on the other extreme, like hip hop. Like hip hop will be very like detail oriented, like talking about specific physical items of like cars and watches and drugs and people that have died or are in jail or are with you physically at the moment. Like it's very explicit in terms of detail. And I feel like pop music conventionally is not like that. And that's something I kind of wanted to challenge a bit.
Yeah, you definitely make unconventional pop music is the best way to describe, especially the solo project is like it's unconventional pop music and unconventional in the highest of praise. I mean,
Thank you.
Just between the lyricism, the instrumentation, because you kind of still go all over the place while still remaining in that current wave of pop sound.
Yeah, like I'm super inspired by people like Underscores and Jane Remover who are doing these kinds of things that like just you don't really know what to call it. And it's just like everything kind of thrown into one and you pick and choose the elements that speak to you and use them in different ways. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to like, I draw a lot on like the things I listened to growing up and try to like reimagine them in the context of like pop music in the 2020s. Like writing style, like for me, part of it is just like music is most effective for me as a like expressive creative outlet when I'm like actually talking about like what's in my mind. So it's very confessional. It's like I'm talking about specific friends and I'll send them this song and be like, hey, this song is about you. Or like it's a specific event that happened or specific buildings around me. Or like I have a lot of respect for like people that can. And I think at some point I might want to branch out into writing about like more stories that are more imaginative and less about like concrete details of my life. But like for this first project, and to kind of make an initial statement, I wanted to kind of anchor it around like, okay, this is who I am. These are the sounds that I'm playing with. This is me telling you about things going on in my life. Here's who I am. And this is all me doing it. There'll be more stuff later down the road that kind of brings in other collaborators and things like that, that's in the works. But I wanted to have an initial statement that was like, this is like a snapshot of like my identity, I guess.
Absolutely. And that comes across very well. I feel like, I mean, I know your cat's name because of the solo project.
Right.
I mean, let's look at like doing dumb shit on the internet.
Right.
You just have like, you just went through like your day basically, like your night.
Right. Yeah. It was really just about like, because like I love tweeting. I run an Instagram meme page. I love doing dumb shit on the internet, going on Twitch streams and spamming things in the chat and like Discord calls, whatever, like what a lot of people in the scene are doing. Like I was like, let's just like write a song about that in a very straightforward way and not make it like this sad, lonely thing, but like talk about, I guess, the catharsis of like there was this concept that I was trying to get across, which was that even though it is the internet, it's this expansive thing, you have your bubble in it. It doesn't matter what's going on outside your bubble. You can, like the scene or some group chat is like, you're engaging with these people and doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what's going on. You just have this interface and this can become your world in the moment. And that can be empowering.
Absolutely. The first thing that came to mind when you were explaining that is it's almost like the internet's your Pokeball.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got everything you need in there for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Not forever, but like sometimes you need to go in there.
Right, yeah.
So that was like the goal of doing dumb shit on the internet, is to write a song about like a positive view on the internet, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also just like in a broader life sense, like I think when I was younger, I was more like career oriented and ambitious. We're about the same age. I think I'm like mid-20s. But like then I don't know, like pandemic hit and I was like, you know what? I don't really care about a lot of these like bigger things anymore. I don't care about like climbing ladders as much. I just kind of want to like find the things that I really am passionate about and find a way to focus myself around that. Like that mindset switch is kind of the first couple lines of the song. I used to want to be important, then I got bored, didn't want to force it. And so it's part of it is the internet itself as a thing that I love doing, but it's also like stop caring about like your place in the world because relative to everyone, because it doesn't matter. It just find your community and exist there and have fun.
All right. So just like segueing into the actual interview parts, what would you say the goal was for Bright Red? Let's just like break it down track by track.
Yes. Okay. This is a fun one for me. This is maybe my favorite song I've made. And I know it's like, I've played it on various, like as a private track on various streams and stuff. And it's divisive. Like, I sent it to the Hive Mind stream a while back and some people loved it. Like they loved it, but some people like really hated it. And it's kind of supposed to be this song that like, I don't really know where I was going for. I wasn't drawing on a certain artist or sound. I was just like kind of playing around to like I had this beat loop of like just that bump, ba-dum, bump, bump, ba-dum, bump kind of gallopy rhythm thing. And I just kind of want to like, I wanted to challenge people, especially with it being like a project opener. I wanted it to be something, I didn't want people to go in just with like easy, catchy, fun pop stuff and think it's going to just be like some generic, simple thing. I wanted to put something that was a little more challenging up at the front, both in terms of the sounds and transitions and the way it's structured. Like there's this orchestral build into this kind of like intentionally ugly sounding garbled synthy thing, with no bass and then just like these flanged drums. And then it all kind of glides into like the core of the song, where you have this groove going. There's more of like a traditional like kick, but it's still kind of like this. I want it to seem weird to people. I want people to be a little like confused, but then focus on the lyrics. And it's kind of this two-part concept. The first one, like I live in New York City. I've been here for a few years and I like love it, but I also have never really traveled the world. I just kind of ended up here through the path life took me on, but I've never like really, I don't have a lot of places to compare it to in terms of like other big cities in the US or other places around the world. And like, I forget exactly why I settled on Lisbon in particular as the comparison point. One of them is one of my biggest inspirations is in terms of production and especially for some of the sounds in that song is Animal Collective. And Panda Bear, who is one of the main members of Animal Collective, lives in Lisbon. He's like settling down, has a family, still releases music, but he's made his money. He can just kind of chill, relax in this very quiet, like seaside town with cobblestone streets and winding mountains and cliffs and bright red rooftops. Every like I looked at pictures of it. It's like every house in Lisbon has this like red shingle roof thing. So like that seems peaceful, but like I don't want to. I'm not ready to settle down. I like the excitement and combination of beauty and ugliness in big cities like New York, where there's like garbage on the street and everything smells like pee, and it's like that's kind of the charm, is that it feels real.
Yeah.
You see a lot of different sides of people very quickly. So the main verse of the song is like this comparing and contrasting of like things that I've heard about Lisbon and things that I see about New York and how different they are. And then there's this part where I kind of, the verse is ending, I kind of pop up to like this meta level and ask myself the question of why am I spending all this time like just analyzing these cities and writing about them? Like it's fun to make things into art, but at some point you want to like live and experience the world and go do things and not have those experiences always. Like I'll catch myself out doing stuff in the world and thinking, oh, how can I write a song about this? Rather than just embracing the moment. And so that's the line, wouldn't it be nice if we could just go out and live in it? After earlier, what does it symbolize? Then the final end is this like build towards this kind of anthemic ending. And this is conceptually, it's more of trying to step into the world, stepping into more raw emotions and it's less descriptive. It's just about some conversation with someone where you're realizing that maybe you're calling them out for something and they call you out for the same thing. And that forces you to reflect on your own decisions. But I wanted it to be less descriptive and more visceral and for the sound to match with that. It's kind of a lot of things thrown together, both conceptually and sonically. And there's not really there's no like verse, chorus thing. It's just like, here's a bunch of stuff, grab bag of things that I piece together into, to me, what feels like a coherent narrative, but it's also like, it is a little bit all over the place, but that's kind of part of the thing that I like about it.
That all comes across well, and it is a very good intro track. It's short and sweet and to the point. Mm-hmm. A lot of your songs are, under 2 minutes, but you have a couple that are just a little bit longer.
I think in general, I like my default. I try to not. I don't want things to overstay their welcome, and I kind of am like, okay, how long does the song need to be? Like I have the idea of what are the pieces of the song, and then I say, is this enough? Does the song need something more? And if this feels like a complete package, it doesn't need to be any longer. Like Dumb Shit on the Internet, the next one, it didn't need a second verse to get the point across. And I had liked the idea of having like a really short song, like it's 1:14, that could still be like a single. And so that was one where it felt like, especially because the beat is so repetitive and like the thumpy fast kick the whole time. Like there was some other podcast that did like a review of Dumb Shit and they were like debating back and forth for a while, like whether or not it should have been longer. And some of the people were saying, this is perfect. Some, I wouldn't have wanted the beat to keep carrying on because it's so boomy and repetitive. This was the right amount of it. Some people were saying that they just think songs in general like should be longer, but I don't know. You can do whatever you want. I tend to just kind of say, rather than targeting a certain amount of time, oftentimes it ends up being around 2 minutes, but like mostly starting from like, what's the concept of the song and what does it need to feel complete?
And it's still feels complete and cohesive. It's just one of those things that's like, oh, that was so good. I want more of that.
Yeah.
You've just forced the whole like project to be replayed by having it so short. It's like, well, if you're going on like a 40-minute car ride, well, might as well hit the repeat button instead of messing with your phone.
If people want to replay it, yeah, because it's like 17 and a half minutes. And I feel like it's a lot of content in there. There's a lot of ideas in there, I think. I don't know. That was kind of one of the goals too, is to have a lot of ideas, to have each thing feel like it's fleshed out, but still being very compact and kind of like an album experience. But then you're like, oh, wow, that was only 18 minutes. And also I know people have attention span limits. Like it's hard to get someone, especially for like a first project, it's hard to get a new list. If it was a 45-minute album, not a lot of people are going to make it all the way through it if they just stumble across it. But yeah, if someone's 5 minutes in and they see there's 13 to go and they're enjoying it, they're much more likely to finish it out.
All right, sure. A little secret tip from natureplayer on how to keep those plays going. So let's move on to talking about the village. What was the goal here?
Yeah, this is also one that is very special to me. Partly for sonic inspiration, partly for the story. Sonically, one of the things that I wanted to challenge, it's fine to use heavy 808s and all these synths and like especially most music in the scene has elements that are like very obviously digital. I wanted to challenge myself, like, how can I make a song that like feels kind of like hyperpop, feels like a banger, but you could recreate with like an orchestra and a live band. I didn't even want to do like the full balls to the wall, like Travis Barker style pop punk drum mixing. I wanted it to feel like raw, feel more of like you'd see it at a concert and everything is like a real instrument. Part of this is because so one of my favorite records of the year so far is the Black Country New Road album. They're a British band that are very inspired by like old groups like Arcade Fire, who's also a favorite of mine, especially the early stuff. And then they do all sorts of like interesting time signature changes. They're also a lyrical inspiration for some of this stuff. Like the singer is very like detailed in the way that he talks about things. Like he'll talk about, I don't know, Wi-Fi and things like that. And in a song that's like an indie rock song, they've been an inspiration sonically, and they use a similar palette of sounds. Like they have a violinist, they have horns, and I wanted to try to make a pop song that's kind of the same tempo as the other stuff that was like raw instrumentally and was not overly digital. And so it's all like all the strings and stuff are MIDI, but like I think I did my best to try to get them to sound like at least not too digital. Yeah, I don't know if it succeeds, but I think it does into my ears, and I hope people like it, and I hope people are willing to give something a shot, even if there aren't like 808s in it, or like super fat like digital kicks that have been tuned in Serum or whatever. It's really like, what can you do to make a banger without with a restricted palette? Like I forced myself to like, there's no synths that sound like synths. There's like one analog multi-sample drum kit that's MIDI, and that's all that I used. And then my voice, and I didn't do too much vocal processing. I wanted it to feel raw. The story is like, it's about a friend of mine who we've also like been more than friends at some point. She used to like live near me, and like there was always kind of this tension, this back and forth of like, oh, what's going to happen? Where are we right now? Are we on or off? And I just wanted to make a cute little song about that also was kind of describing like things about the city and kind of setting the scene, painting a picture, and using that as like the places that I'm seeing on the way walking to visit her, or like the restaurant we might go to and where we'll sit and eat, and bars I'm going to and people I'm texting. And yeah, I don't know. I had this idea of this concept of like kind of like imagery of my neighborhood combined with this like story of this person. It felt like the right fit for that sonic goal of a track, and so I combined them to make this.
All right, and this song, out of like my whole listen, this song stood out to me probably the most. Specifically when you with the line I brought up earlier, but with the my phone's running low, bingo ate my
Yeah.
charger. Your flow when you say that you're going to the Apple store tomorrow
It's kind of goofy.
is just like it's goofy, but it's like
going to the Apple store tomorrow. It's
it's one of those things that it's like it makes you laugh, and it doesn't make you laugh at the person. It makes you laugh with the person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, oh, that was goofy, and like it's a fun expression of yourself because like we can tell that you're a goofy person
Yeah.
through everything, like without that, through the music.
Yeah, I have a song called "Doing Dumb Shit on the Internet," right? Like, but
yeah,
exactly. That was definitely the goal with that line. Is I wanted it to be like, and it's also kind of funny that it's like a very silly excuse to hit up someone to ask them to hang out. It's like, hey, I have to go to the Apple store to get a new iPhone charger because my phone is dying because my cat chewed up the cord. And so I'm texting you now, but I won't see the text on my phone because it's about to die, but I might see it on my laptop. And I was like, it's like a very absurd story to like tell someone, but it also felt like I could see that didn't actually happen. He did eat a phone charger. I didn't actually send that text to someone. But I don't know. I thought about it. I don't know. It's definitely supposed to be funny. And I think the flow is kind of in line with that. That was the goal, at least.
So next, let's talk about "I Promise." That was the last single off of the solo project, correct?
Yes. That came out like
Right.
about 2 weeks ago, I think.
15 days ago.
Yeah. So this was one that I actually made very recently. It was one of the last songs I made. Like a lot of these had been in the works for months to a year. The two ones that were very recent in terms of like starting them within the past month were "I Promise" and "Purple Elephants." And so "I Promise," I wanted one more single, and I felt like the other songs that I had made, they made a lot of sense for the project, but they weren't necessarily like singles in the way that like they're less easy to like slot into a random playlist. And so I wanted something that was sonically a little more close to the types of things people are already making, a little less avant-garde or whatever. And I also like wanted to, I had a concept that felt like I needed a song about this sort of narrative because it's a thing I've written a lot of songs about, like especially going back to my early releases, like just this idea of the procrastination doom loop and having to, and psyching yourself out about like getting things done. And am I doing enough? Am I working too hard? I'm tired. I'm lazy. I'm whatever. All these things. Like three of my first songs were basically about that. High Places, Found Out, and iCloud. And it's like, I haven't written a song about that in a while. And I feel like that's an essential part of the like story that I'm telling is just like part of it's the creative process. Part of it's just like the burdens of life in general. And I also wanted to like challenge myself, like in terms of flow and wordplay to get fancy. And so this is one where I think a lot of the hard part was like the beat came together pretty quickly. Like some of the lyrics have a lot of these little internal rhymes and when I'm fishing for a distant destination and fold the cards I've dealt, efficiency and friction split the difference. When you visit, take a picture, wish me well. Like there's a lot of internal rhymes in there. And that's something that I have a lot of fun. It's like a puzzle to solve to make it flow like that. Because you have to get the concept, you have to get the flow, the rhythm, and you have to get the sounds of the words themselves to all line up. And so this song was in some ways an exercise in that. And also like, it's about a conversation I've had with my dad many times of like reassuring him that I'm like, I have things under control. Like I have a plan. You don't need to worry. Yeah. And so I sent it to him and he was like, yeah, I can tell that's what this is about.
Yeah, but that comes across, this one really spoke to me personally. I feel like this one's a real anthem for a lot of people.
Right. It's definitely like, I wanted to have one that was also another reason why I said that I felt like this could be a good single is it's not too personal. It's like it's stuff that I think a lot of people can relate to. And the way that I'm talking about it is more metaphors than like concrete details. I'm just along for the ride, looking out for exit signs, not opposed to the scenic route. Like lines like that can be applied to anything. It doesn't have to be about a certain task at hand.
Yeah, you left more for the listener to, oh my God, project on. Sorry.
Yeah.
You left more. It definitely, that song of the whole thing, I feel like lyrically leaves more room for
Interpretation and
an easier interpretation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's, especially with just like a lot of, the concrete stuff, like, talking about where to get pizza and eat salads.
Yeah.
That stuff is initially, not as like relatable
Right.
as people would want.
Uh-huh.
But those are the things that eventually make you feel like you can relate to this artist more, because you can have your city, even though it's not New York City. Like you're talking about New York City, and people can relate this eventually. It's like what the time of like relating actually your life and not just your lyricism.
Yeah, for sure. And there's plenty of songs that I like of other artists where it's like they're talking about very detailed, specific things about themselves, and I don't like necessarily relate to that. Like, do you know the song "Hannah Hunt" by Vampire Weekend?
I do not.
Okay, it's like this it's a fictional story, but it's really like this story of the singer and this girl on like this cross country road trip, talking about all the cities that they're stopping by and things that happen to them along the way, and it's like a beautiful song, very well written, and it's very like emotional, especially at this big climax. But it's not, I don't know, it's not relatable, but it's like you feel for the people in the story. And so I try to do a little bit of both. Some of the stuff is more like open for interpretation. Some of it is like, this is me. I hope you can find something in this that you can relate to as well, or at least sympathize, or laugh along or whatever.
And you do that very well, getting into the next track, Petroleum, which you have, at the time of recording, 3,485 plays on.
This was the hit. Yeah. This definitely like changed a lot for me. Like I felt like it was the right song at the right time when I was just in a spot where like if I had the right song and I sent it to enough, I'd like, and I did some work to like push it out to people. Like I sent it to a lot of friends. I was like, hey, can you like repost this? Can you like comment this? And I like put it on like the Dystopia stream like a few times, on the Hive Mind stream. Like I did some work to try to get people to see it. And then like it just kind of, I don't know. I think it, like I see it on people's random playlists and stuff. And it's like, I don't know. I like seeing the associations people have with it. I think the fact that it's like, I don't know, this kind of catchy synthy hyperpop thing made it easy for people to like find a home for it on their playlists. Because it's not too, especially if you like listen to a lot of stuff in the scene, this is not like it's not totally out of left field. And I had realized from an earlier song that there was a demand for like something that was all pitched up from me. This song, Play It Safe from November, it's a very disjointed, weird structured song, but the final 30 seconds of it, there's this like hyperpop synthy explosion thing with like trap drums and pitched up vocals. And that was always a moment that like, whenever I would see people react to it, their like eyes would widen at that part of the song of like, oh, this sonic palette is something. And I was like, I need to make a song that really fully explores that. And so that was Petroleum. This one, the lyrics, I don't want to go too deep into, but it's essentially about like partying too hard, which can mean different things to different people, and trying to find balance in like substance use and things like that. Saying, oh, it's fine for now, I'll figure it out later, in terms of the pace at which you're doing certain things, then realizing, oh, at some point later has to come. Yeah.
All right. And then we had talked over DM when this song, I think when I first heard the song and I looked at the lyrics that you did not intentionally use the number 7 because it was a lucky number.
The 7 was like, I think it's like there was this is an actual number that I deleted about 7 times that I literally like remembered the number. Then at some point I was like, okay, please block me.
So let's move on to Purple Elephants, which is, so do you usually cut your vegetables with a pocket knife, or was this a...
So it's not literally a pocket knife. It's just like a very small knife. Like I don't own a big knife in my kitchen. And so the theme of the song and the reason why that is a detail I included is it's a song about those visceral, those back of your head feelings of like, I could do something really stupid right now. I don't want to. I am not going to, but the thought of this stupid thing I could do is there, and I can't get rid of that thought. Things that would damage yourself or relationships or anything else. And it's, I think it's a thing I've talked to friends about and family about. And it's like I think it's a pretty common feeling that I in particular have. I feel very strongly a lot of the time. And I make choices to kind of avoid certain situations. Like I'm very afraid of heights. I don't like being on rooftops. I can handle it, but it's like I am going to stay far away from the edge just because like the thought of that, if I'm close to the edge, is going to be so present in my mind. And the title of the song is this concept. I mean, it's a phrase you can say to someone as a challenge, or it's also like a concept in psychology of like, don't think of a purple elephant. And so if someone tells you don't think of a purple elephant, you kind of immediately have to think of a purple elephant.
Yeah, that's the first thing you think about.
Yeah. And so that's why the title of the song is Purple Elephants, is that these are all these things that I can't not think about. And then the hook is, I don't want to think about it. And yeah, I don't know. And I wanted something that was slower, that I knew was going to be towards the back half of the album. And that also I could do the big shoegaze ending kind of thing again.
Yeah, it definitely following like I Promise and Petroleum being back to back. It's a lot, and like this just comes in and kind of changes the flow a little bit as we move into Lose Less. So how would you say it? Lose Less / Patience, or Lose Less
/ Patience? Sure, yeah, it's a 2-part song. Like
So Lose Less and Patience.
But there's also the Lose Less Patience as can be a combined idea as well. But Lose Less / Patience. Yeah, it's fine. So this is an interesting one. This one's been in the works for a very long time, and but not continuously. Like originally these were 2 separate songs from a long time ago, like before I released any of my stuff. I had written versions of both of these songs, had kind of sat on them, wasn't sure what to do with them. Eventually realized, I can totally redo them. They're close enough tempos and they're in kind of compatible keys for a key change. And so there are some of the loops in the song, like guitar and stuff, are taken from the old versions and kind of like repurposed. Some of it's totally redone. And I wanted to have some song in the project that was bigger, that was not just like one idea, but was a more sprawling, expansive thing, like a Sicko Mode or a Bohemian Rhapsody, where it's the structure kind of flows and it has all these builds and come downs and things like that. There's a bunch of songs that I made a long time ago that are all scrapped, and these were 2 of my favorites in terms of the writing, and I wanted them to come into the world at some point. And so this seemed like the right place for them as a combined piece. The core theme of Lose Less, like what the final phrase means, is, for like a sports analogy, if you want to hit more shots, you got to either take more shots or increase your percentage. And those are your only ways to hit more shots, is be more accurate or take more shots. And so there's only 2 ways you can win more. You can lose more or you can lose less, means is that if you want to get somewhere, like at some point, there's only a couple of ways you can go about it. If you want more people to listen to your music, you have to either just make more, make the stuff you've released. If you're going to release only a couple songs, they got to be good. You can't drop misses. Or if you're going to do the spray and pray approach where you just drop a bunch of stuff and hope something sticks, but like you have to do one of those 2. You can't drop a few songs that aren't all the way there and hope that somehow magically things all work out. You have to fight for whatever you're hoping for. And this can be music, it can be anything else in life. But yeah, just that realization of like a statistical reality about getting what you want. Yeah. And then the other stuff, I don't know, was about like just different periods of life and living in different places and what I hope to get out of it. Like I used to live in a more quiet area, was focused on different things, and now I moved downtown to live more, is the lyric in the song. And I'm in a spot where it's easier to just kind of like go out and do the things I want to do. And then patience is like, so okay, there's certain details with the song that I kind of want to leave as clues for the listener if they really want to dig into them. And I can explain to you offline. Maybe once we end the call, I can go into some more detail about certain things. But there's some stuff that I'm not going to just fully tell people what it means. But they're all details about real things. If people want to go off on their own and try to piece a bunch of these clues together, they could find out a lot more information about my life if they wanted to. But I'm not going to spell that out for people. But the theme at the end of Patience is just this idea of like, sometimes you're just like, you got to like wake up and just power through, and things aren't coming easily. You just feel like you have to drag yourself in whatever direction you want to go. Hopefully it gets easier. And you got to do it nonetheless, and be patient for the time when it does become easier to fight the fight, to go in the direction you want to go. Things don't happen overnight.
Absolutely. Rome was not built in a day.
I think sonically also, this one I wanted to have some more synths. Like there's been a lot of guitar so far in the project, and I wanted some things that felt more like drops that were like explosive. And so there's the first drop in the Lose the Last portion with the arpeggiated synths, and then there's the big like super saw jump scare at the end of Patience, breaks, and all these heavy 808 kick things. I wanted to feel like there's this big driving like anthem kind of thing that kept building and building, especially in the last minute and a half. Like I keep adding a layer. Like it's kind of there's the central guitar riff that's like a 4-part thing, and there's kind of these stanzas of like words that are kind of, a lot of them are like a tweaked version of an earlier one, which is a theme throughout the song. Like there's the 2 portions of Lose Less that have similar but slightly tweaked lyrics, and then the same thing for the end of Patience, which is another reason why they felt like a natural pairing.
So lastly, let's talk about Getaway.
Yeah, I made this song a year ago today. And it was like the first, other than the scrapped versions of Lose Less and Patience, this is like the first thing I started for the project. And I knew it was going to be for a project at some point, and this felt like the right time to do it. And it felt like a natural closer, especially with some of the lyrics. And it was just kind of going to be this down-tempo indie rock kind of thing that has like this a little bit of a bounce to it, but it's not a banger. It's just it's an outro. It's telling a certain story and expressing certain emotions. And it also has this kind of meta thing at the end. And so conceptually, this is kind of about just like my journey making music. This is something that I've kind of alluded to a little bit in the past, but like initially the way I started making music was like about 10 years ago or so. Like in middle school, high school, I was in a rock band. I played drums. And eventually I picked up guitar and songwriting, but we had some music that came out, but it was not professionally recorded or anything. It was just like demos, but we played shows around my hometown, and we were able to it's in Wisconsin. Wisconsin has very relaxed laws about children going to bars. And so we could get dropped off by our parents, and we're 14 and we're playing some dive bar. And parents pick us up at the end. I was like, and that was always one of my favorite childhood memories, and something that I think once I experienced that is like, oh, I need to do this at some level. I can't just have this be a memory. I need this to be like a part of my life again. And so part of the project of Natureplayer is to get back to that spot. And that seems like it's kind of happening. Like I've played a couple live shows recently. But it's really there's a visceral feeling both of writing and creating the music and then sharing it and being able to do it in front of people that is unlike anything else I've ever experienced. And so that's what the chasing dreams of drumming in a bar at 14, can't believe I got away with it is. Then this idea of like getting away with something is the central theme of the song. And like feeling like it's a feeling that I have a lot of like whenever something good happens, it's like, okay, but did I really earn it? Or did I just like trick my way into getting this? Did I do it the right way or did I get away with it somehow? And like this idea of stringing someone along can be both a thing in relationships, but really the core ending of this in the song is the listener of the album. They've just finished listening to this thing. And it's like, there's still a feeling of guilt, like trying to pressure people to listen to your music. It's like, you're taking time out of their day to ask for attention, basically. It's like, you don't want to just be spamming it to everyone. You feel kind of guilty the more you're like tweeting about it. But you know you have to do it because that's what you want to do. It's important to you to have this audience for it. And so someone has just listened to 17, 18 minutes of my music and I'm sorry I've been stringing you along. It won't be for much longer. I just wanted to get away with it as the end.
That is the goals of each song. Damn.
Yeah.
So just like
It's
a few standard lab-grown questions adapted for this. What gear did you use on this project?
Everything is Ableton. That's my DAW. I have a electric guitar, an SG that I love, and I have a little acoustic guitar on some of the songs. The electric makes an appearance on everything, I believe. And that's my main, like when I start thinking about melodies for a song, I'll have like a drum pad set up with some samples and I'll make a basic loop. And then I'll start thinking about guitar and try to get melodies that way. That's my comfortable tool for sonic expression. And that's a reason why all of my songs are so guitar heavy, even ones that like it in Petroleum, it's more of like a background element. Like there is this lead synth, but like a lot of the layers in the songs are constructed out of guitar, even if the guitar ends up being like very processed. And yeah, so then I just record in my room. I have a microphone and a interface and speakers and headphones. I can go into more detail about any of that, but that's basically
that's the setup. The bedroom setup.
Nothing super fancy.
All right,
yeah.
The standard.
And there's other stuff where I've kind of thought about and I'll do this for the future in terms of having other people be more involved with like mixing or mastering or whatever. And for this project, especially because some of the songs had already been out, and I just dropped them when they were ready, the goal was not to have it be the most professional of everything. The goal was that it was me and that I wanted it to be, here is, at this point in time, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm capable of, and it's all me. No one else has had their hands in this. And then I'll go from there. Then I'll branch out into stuff that's, like, a lot of the stuff that's going to come next is more accessible. It's going to be mixed a little tighter and mastered and stuff like that. And this is less of like a project that I'm expecting to like blow up or whatever, versus it's a statement of intent, a statement of like kinds of things I'm doing, of what I'm writing about, and to get people excited for more to come.
And it definitely did so with me.
Awesome. Good to hear.
No, that actually kind of covered everything that I needed to ask.
Awesome.
So we
Cool.
made it through the podcast.
Thank